We have to understand, I think more than anything, that adding each year at least 100 million people, that our planet and all of our natural resources, our trees, our bluefin tuna, our leatherback turtles, our fresh water, it's finite. And we have to become aware of protecting it for us and for future generations. And one thing that is not on and not acceptable is the continued over $5 trillion a year in subsidies to coal, oil, gas, and fracking.
The Vidal Speaks podcast.
Episode number 60, Dr. Reese Halter, What We Can Do to Overcome the Destruction of the Coal Industry. Welcome to Vidal Speaks. My name is Deborah Vidal, former 11-year LPGA golf pro turned classical homeopath, certified plant-based nutritionist, and wellness coach. Each week here on Vidal Speaks, we bring you knowledge, inspiration, or natural remedies to help you take charge of your health and feel your best. I believe health is freedom and knowledge is power, so tuning in each week will give you the power to take steps towards freeing yourself from the chains that hold you back from having the energy to do all you want in life. No matter where you are in your journey of wellness, Vidal Speaks can help. I promise. Hi everyone, welcome to Vidal Speaks, and thanks for joining me today. I look forward every week to bring you groundbreaking information, great ideas, support, and many ideas for regaining or improving your health and the health of our planet. And if you're new to the show, be sure to check out some of the past episodes so you can catch up with lots of important info that I've shared over the last year. And if you're a regular, then thanks for joining me every week and helping me accomplish my mission as a health activist to change the world. I believe many people have lost their health because big industries that have lots of money have been feeding all of us lies about what's healthy, what's safe, and what's not. It's my job to expose those lies and give you, the experts, that base their work on science, not just on some random article on the internet with no science behind it. And there are so many of those lies out there having to do with our foods being safe or healthy. And there's so many lies out there about the true state of our planet. So I feel it's my life work to bring the truth to the forefront so people won't be used to fill the pockets of the companies profiting from the lies they know that are killing us. I hate to see people used like that, and it's a must for me to stand up and speak out. And have you noticed the price of animal meats are going down? They say they're going to drop the price again, which allows for more people to buy them, get sick, and support the pharmaceutical industry. They make it so that a poor person can afford meat but not broccoli, or a fast food meal instead of a veggie. That's intentional. Can you get that? That's because they see that they can use the lower class, which now is the biggest group of Americans, to fill their pockets with more wealth. It is sick. You guys need to know the truth. Why have they never subsidized organic veggies or healthy whole foods? Have you ever thought about it? They just unloaded all the excess cow's milk and cheese by dumping it out. And then what they couldn't dump out, they pawned off on the rest of the poor people in the WIC program. Isn't that horrible? It's really sad for me. But it also shows how people are learning the truth about how cheese and animal products are making us sick. I'm sure most of you that follow this show for a year now know that I'm a very optimistic person. And I also know that some of the subjects I speak about are heavy topics and they can be very overwhelming, leaving you with a feeling like you almost wish you didn't know this information because it's so depressing, so sad or heavy. Yes, maybe. But while my goal is to bring you the truth, I also want to bring you positive solutions or things you can do to turn it around. Change happens when many people demand the same thing. I want you to create a movement where we demand the truth and we resist being treated as pawns for the poisons they're feeding us and dumping in our environment and in our foods. We speak with our dollars, you guys. And speaking of poisons in our environment, now we can get into today's show because it's about the ramifications on our health as a direct result of the coal industry that's spewing toxic mercury into the environment at a rate like never seen before. Mercury is one of the main causes of many people's so-called mystery illnesses. Mercury never leaves the body unless you take efforts to detox it out. And I will do many shows on detoxing, I promise. And I won't stop touting the importance of this because it's one of our main tools to regain our health back or to improve the current state of health of anybody out there. Okay, I admit it, I'm the detox queen, but it's for a good reason, I promise you. And you'll continue to learn this as we go along. I'm going to spend more time on shows on mercury and other heavy metals, but today I want to focus on the mercury we're getting as a direct result of the coal industry. My guest today is my favorite, the Vidal Speaks resident scientist, Dr. Reese Halter, PhD. He's my favorite scientist. All of his info has so much integrity in it. It's all science-based. And yes, it's depressing because it's the truth, but I always turn to Dr. Reese to give me the facts. But today he's going to also tell us some positive steps we can all take to avoid supporting the coal industry and what we can do about this problem, along with his ideas of the future of coal. The coal industry, like the pharmaceutical industry, like the FDA, like the CDC, like the dairy and animal agricultural industry, is very corrupt, as you'll learn today from Dr. Reese. This is a very important show today because we all need to understand how the coal industry works, but even more, we need to know that it's destroying all of human health. Soon after this show, I promise, probably the next one, I'm going to do a show about what you can do to detox from mercury along with many other pesticides, metals, and poisons. And I'll never stop talking about detox, guys, because it's really a must since we no longer will be able to live a long, healthy life without it. Also, today's show is very special because it's in dedication to Reese's beloved Chesapeake Retriever companion named Nio. He lost Nio last week. She was named after his favorite Hawaiian tree with a beautiful flower. She was his beloved companion for almost 13 years and was with him by his side like the little assistant doing her part in helping to heal the environment as she worked with him on a daily basis. And as we all know, losing our beloved companions is so hard. So if you get a chance, send Reese a message to help him heal from this grief. If you're new to the show, then you may not know who Dr. Reese Halter is, so I'm only going to do a brief introduction of him, but please check out episode 44 and 45, and you'll learn all about him and his work by listening to those episodes. His work and effort are vast, and this info is small in comparison, but I want to at least give you guys a little info about him. So let me tell you just a little bit more, and then we'll get started. Dr. Reese Halter's passion for the environment is lifelong. He's a powerful voice for the bees, trees, and seas, and saving nature now. Dr. Halter is a distinguished biologist, an award-winning broadcaster and writer. His latest book, Shepherding the Seas, The Race to Save Our Oceans, and yet I know he's got another book in the works, so be on the lookout for that one, you guys. Dr. Halter has the unique talent of making current complex environmental issues accessible and compelling to any audience, and you'll hear that today. He believes that human beings are exquisite problem solvers, that for every issue, there's at least 3 solutions. His passion to protect our planet is contagious. Dr. Halter has studied nature for 4 decades. He holds a PhD in eco-stress subalpine eucalypt physiology. He lives in LA, California. Make that Hollywood, California now. And he's active in the community with children in schools. He enjoys quiet walks on the beach and being with his beloved Labrador buddy, Nio, who was named after a beautiful Hawaiian tree that Dr. Reese worked on. Dr. Reese says, to protect nature, we must love it. To love it, we must understand it. To understand it, we must be taught. From understanding comes wonder, which I can personally tell you that the Earth Doctor, Dr. Reese, is a master at evoking. So please join him and help safeguard our environment. Okay, you guys ready to learn what we all can do about the coal industry? Me too. So sit back and enjoy this one. Here we go. Hi, Dr. Reese. Welcome back to the Vidal Speaks podcast, and thanks so much for coming to the studio today to educate us about the coal industry, and more than that, of the impacts of that industry on our environment and of the human race. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start by kind of doing Coal Industry 101. Can you tell us a little bit about the industry, like how it works, and then we'll get more into the details of it.
Okay, basically, first of all, lovely to be back. Basically, it boils down to one word, energy, and it boils down to the insatiable demand for everything that we have, everything we use, everything that we can conceive requires energy to make. Currently, at least 60, possibly 65% of the energy that we use on planet Earth comes from coal-fired plants. Coal is an ancient form of the Carboniferous forest, maybe 250, 300 million year old forest that grew on our extraordinary lush planet 300 plus million years ago. And over time, the trees made up of carbon underwent a metamorphosis, a process where they turned into coal. When coal is burned, it gives off an energy punch that is extraordinary. And as a byproduct of that, it releases an immense amount of carbon dioxide, which is the gas, which is carbon. When you burn a solid becomes a gas. It goes back to the carbon dioxide state, which is a heat-trapping, climate-altering gas that is irrefutably warming our planet. And also, it releases mercury vapor. So we have a double punch. We have the source of energy is warming our planet, the likes of which we haven't seen for tens of millions of years. In fact, we are we're belching more carbon dioxide from coal, oil, gas into the atmosphere now 10 times faster than the previous 66 million years.
Jeez.
And where it's all wound up is the oceans. So over the last 200 plus years of burning coal, that heat has been stored in the ocean. And up until rather recently, it's been rather quiet. It's been detectable. But over the last 20 years, the heat has been pulsing harder and higher, rippling really throughout the oceans. And it's the cause of so many very life-threatening problems like the oxygen-bearing phytoplankton, the basis of the entire ocean. We're missing because the cold water currents aren't rising to the surface carrying iron and nitrogen. We're missing 40% of all the phytoplankton on our planet. Now, for the fish and all sea life that rely on the security cover of the green mats that float around the ocean, that's a big concern for them because it's not only just security, it's where all the young'un go to hide and eat. And of course, the little critters are eaten by the bigger critters and so on and so forth. So the entire ocean depends on this mat. Along with the mat, a blue-green bacteria, Prochlorococcus, together with the phytoplankton, gives each of us almost 2 out of every 3 breaths of oxygen we breathe on planet Earth, irrespective of where you are.
Wow.
So we're missing our oxygen source.
How much is our oxygen source down right now? Is that measurable?
It is measurable. Molecularly, we're missing over the last 20 years, we're missing approximately 600 molecules per million. Not enough to disturb us per se during the daytime. I maintain, and a few other of my colleagues also maintain, that it is a disruptor of sleep. We know that a little bit less molecular oxygen is enough to impinge upon our sleep. And in America, we know that 60 million people suffer some form of sleep disorder.
For sure.
So that's a problem. The mercury is an enormous problem.
Yeah, we're going to get into the mercury because, as you know, I have a special place to get the message out about mercury. It's really killing the human race.
Yeah.
So let me see if I get it right. So this carbon dioxide, this gas, that's directly what's causing the heat in the ocean.
It's so, I mean, think of it like this. The fact is that our planet is not cooling off at night. When we burn, matter is neither created nor destroyed, it's simply transformed. So 300 million years ago, we had these beautiful forests. The forests died, and over time, the carbon turned into coal. And when we burn that coal, which we've done over the last 200 plus years, we're releasing the carbon dioxide, the carbon, back into the atmosphere as a gas. I guess to put everything into perspective of how insatiable our demand for energy is, a statistic that Bill Gates revealed, or I read that he revealed a couple of years ago, in China, between 2011 and 2012, they poured 6 gigatons of cement. That 6 gigatons of cement in 1 year in China is the equivalent to 100 years of cement that we poured in the United States.
Wow.
In order to make that, it takes an incredible amount of energy and limestone, and it's baked, and it releases more heat-trapping gases. In fact, we know, Deb, we've measured over the last couple hundred years, Lawrence Livermore National Lab here in California, over the last couple hundred years, scientists, we measure things very precisely. That's what we do. That's what we do in science, actually, the truth be known, and we're very, very careful. The scientists at Lawrence Livermore calculated that over the past 200 plus years that we've infused approximately 300 zetajoules of energy into the oceans. 150, half of that energy from burning fossil fuels into the oceans has come since 1997. So you can see, as our techno demand and demand to bring billions of people into cities to build them, it requires an immense amount of energy. What the audience will probably recognize is that China, northern China particularly, this year was horrendous, but every year is awful. The cities face incredible rates of smog. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, tell us, because I read an article that you wrote about that, about like what's allowed or what's allowed health-wise and where their rate is.
Yeah, the World Health Organization has got these tiny particulate matter, which is very small parts of toxicity that stick on our lungs. And Beijing has readings that are 10, almost 15 times higher than the World Health Organization's safe limit.
Jeez.
And as a result, at least 1.4 million Chinese die from lung disease every year. And it's awful. That's awful. Very recently, mega city in India, New Delhi, has air pollution even higher.
Higher than China?
Than Beijing and Shanghai. And I think I'm hoping what people can begin to understand is we live on a planet that is not only, it's our only home, but what we do on one corner of the earth affects all corners of the earth. So if China, and now India, is choking to death on poisons, many of them from coal, certainly from China. We cop that poison across the Pacific Ocean on the west coast of the United States. And in fact, we've been measuring it in the forests in the Pacific Northwest for at least the last 25 years. It's measurable, and it's wrong, and it's toxic. And anybody who has a daughter or a son or a granddaughter or a grandson or a niece or a nephew should be more than concerned, because the toxicity loadings are only getting higher. And what we do to the planet, its air and its water and our oceans, we do to ourselves.
Exactly. And I think so many people, because the subject can be a heavy subject. I know last time when you came on the show, it's hard because I want people to hear it because it's the truth. And a lot of people go, oh, well, I don't need to know that stuff. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You need to know it.
And we'll get into, there's lots of things
that everyone
that
can
each
do.
of us can do on a daily basis. And I think the really important thing today is to understand more than ever, each of us are powerful people. But changing one or two habits is enough to start a wonderful wave of healing and new change, because it's up to each of us to make these changes individually, and then in our families, and then in our communities, and we become a part of this unstoppable force for goodness.
Yeah, and power in numbers, if everybody made one change, and we're going to get into that for sure. So let's continue on your thought about these countries. Where does America fall in as being your list of biggest offenders? So you say New Delhi's the worst, or India, then China. What about Indonesia? Are they?
Indonesia has what we call, or what used to be known as, developing countries. Indonesia is still, as in many developing countries, burns trees and wood. They use it for fuel wood to cook with. So yes, Jakarta, a city of in excess of 5, 6, 7 million people, yes, they obviously have coal-fired power plants to fuel them, but there's over 1,000 islands in Indonesia. So many of the people are at what we still call a subsistence level. In America, we are the second biggest emitters of carbon dioxide next to China. We have a formidable coal industry, and very, very sadly, and I'm embarrassed to say, very sadly, last week, new regulations are allowing coal pollution, sludge, to be pumped directly into fresh water systems, because the EPA has abolished the law to protect freshwater systems from coal pollution.
God, so sad.
It's not just the air, it's the water. And you don't need to be a highfalutin scientist or the smartest guy in the room. What we do to our fresh water, we do to everything on the planet.
Everything.
And again, I say, irrefutably, without question, I can line up every one of my colleagues. Our planet is warming faster than, it's warming at a rate that we have never seen in the illustrious history of our planet currently. That means that these awful heat waves and terrible droughts and biblical-like rains, just ask anybody last year in the Houston area. They copped 2 rainfalls. The second was a 1 in 500 year event. All of the weather events are becoming more extreme. Now, in a warming, drying world, what kind of a mad, sick person would deliberately poison fresh water, the lifeblood of our planet? Because without fresh water, we can't grow anything and we can't drink. Most of our body is made up of water.
Yeah, that's why I now tell people it's a must to drink distilled water, because you can't trust what's in any water anymore. But how sad, because now our food is being affected. And I think you told me about some food crops that they were using dirty, polluted water. Our beautiful fruits. Some of these companies are using this horrible wastewater to grow our tangerines. And
well, what is criminal, which currently isn't spoken of, the underground aquifers are all throughout our planet. They're ancient. They're from millions of years ago in the meltwaters from glaciation. And that's pristine ancient water. And we're pumping fracking pollution and wastewater back into some of these aquifers, and we're contaminating millions of years of water. And what are the kids supposed to drink? What are the kids supposed to drink?
Exactly.
What are the grandkids supposed to drink?
That's so true.
It's infuriating because, ladies and gentlemen, it's wrong. There's no one who can argue that pollution is okay.
That's true. And Reese, is there something when somebody gets really mad about hearing something, as you just said? We're going to talk about solutions, but since you just brought it up, what's the first thing that could they write their senator? Is there a protest? I mean,
yeah, there's lots of things. Certainly, please write your senator or your congressmen or women and demonstrate. We're starting to see more of the old-fashioned demonstrations, the Women's March.
Yeah.
There was over 5 million people, I believe that globally. There are many marches coming up. There's 6 more marches. We're marching for science, standing up for science on April 22nd. I believe on April 15th, there's a march for Donald Trump to reveal his tax forms every other president has. Reveal your tax forms. People are upset, rightfully so, and they will be marching. As for your energy source, one of the interesting things when I said we're all powerful people, we can today it's really taking our power back. And one way we can do that, of course, is physically to power our homes. So in some places, it's rather affordable to put solar panels on your home. Other places, or use wind power. And in other places, people will say, well, I'm pinched. I can't really afford a second mortgage for the panels. Well, what you can do on most of your utility power bills, there's a little box that you can check that says you want to purchase green energy, sun, wind, geothermal energy. It costs maybe $2 or $4 or $6 more a month. It's something that each of us can do. And at least you know that your energy is not contributing to this ever-rising pool of greenhouse gases. What we have seen is the price of solar is coming down so quickly that it is becoming affordable for everyone. And the other thing with the solar units, which is very, very exciting, are the new battery systems. So one of the knocks is that, well, if you have solar on your roof, no matter where you are, Pacific Northwest, or it still makes energy even if there's cloud cover, is what do you do at night because there's no light?
Yeah.
Well, these new battery packs that Tesla, the Powerwall, and others are incredible storage facilities, and they're allowing our homes, each of our homes, to become little power centers. When you have that, the other thing that's coming down are the electric cars. So when you take your power back at your home and you have your battery pack, your Powerwall pack, the next logical thing is you come home and you plug your electric car into your power station.
Yep.
And all of a sudden your car is off the fossil fuel grid. Your home's off the fossil fuel grid, and then you can start that sort of kickstarts, well, what else can I do at home?
Exactly.
You can plant trees. We know that trees strategically planted around our home can insulate and lower our cooling costs by as much as 40%. The shade of a tree is phenomenal. The other thing, obviously, that trees give us is clean air.
Yeah.
Trees filter the pollutants in all of our towns and our cities, in some cases by almost 80%. So you get shade, you get oxygen, you get a buffer. You also create habitat for the critters, the little songbirds.
And you'll sleep better at night.
You'll sleep better at night.
oxygen.
And also for our friends, the bees, right?
Yeah,
the bees
right.
will naturally make a hive in a broken off branch hollow. They won't bother you. It's a fallacy that the mission of a bee is to harm a human. That's absolute flummery. Bees are central to pollinating at least 80% of everything that's around us. We need to protect the bees because the bees are helping us not only eat, but all our trees in our cities survive. So all of a sudden you've done that. And then the other thing that it began, once you take your power back, you then think of the wonderful saying, Socrates saying, let thy food be thy medicine.
Yeah. And you know what came to mind too? It's a little bit like when you change your diet, when you start doing one thing right and then another thing, you start, wow, I have a little more energy. And wow, that eczema I had for 10 years is gone. And then you get more motivated. But I think it's the same. But not only that, I think there's like a wake up conscious gene. And when you start doing it at home and you do it yourself, you start suddenly notice how many people around you aren't doing that, how much we're really wasting. And although for some people who think that can be depressing, it's really a confirmation of what you're doing. It's a wake-up call that you've changed. So now you're aware of what you used to do, right? And it's not about judgment on people because all of us aren't born vegan. Very few in the world were born and never, ever, ever ate an animal. I was one pretty young, you too, Reese. So, but still, there's no reason to make a judgment on anybody because at some point we've all burned energy the wrong way.
Absolutely. This is being a human in a time where it requires us to take the latest information and act upon it. When you think of how all animals, all nature has survived, they've adapted. So if you go back to your home, you've already taken your power back. The other thing, and I encourage everyone to plant at least one, but I would say two food-bearing, fruit, nut-bearing trees. It's easy to put a couple or start with one raised bed. The reason we use raised beds is because in the raised beds, you can make your soil. You can continue to add to your soil. The soil, the crust of the earth, the soil in your raised bed is arguably the most important thing that you can foster and make and continue to add to, because the raised beds give us food. And it's not just that it's delicious food. That's a given. And that it's fun, because here's the other thing. When you venture into your little yard or your balcony, the first thing that happens is your blood pressure comes down. You start to feel a bit better. You putter. You're making habitat for the bees. And I encourage everyone with children to involve your children. Get their hands dirty.
Take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off. Connect to the earth. And before long, your children or grandchildren will see bees and butterflies and ladybugs, and they'll quickly, because nature growing food is it's such a fast process, in a very short time, they'll be able to pick a tomato.
And they'll learn to like it because they grew it.
And they'll know that the bees created bumblebees are central for tomatoes and peppers and all our gourds. And you'll see some honeybees, and they'll also notice very tiny little insects moving very quickly. Those are the native bees. They're the unsung heroes. Here in North America, we have almost 5,000 different kinds of native bees. Some are so very small, and they're pollinating our food. So all of a sudden, we've now taken our power back. We've now begun to create habitat, shade, and food. And then almost magically going back to nature, we become compassionate.
Yeah.
We start to open up our ears, blocking out these moronic leaf blowers, and you hear the birds.
Yeah.
And you'll see maybe a squirrel. You might even see a raccoon, a possum, whatever. But you will become aware that we are part of the web of life. We're not the web of life. We depend on all of the critters that are in our backyard. And certainly, I encourage everyone to at least a couple times a year, take your children or your grandchildren, at least if it's just a day ride, go to the forest, go to the desert, go to a mountaintop, go to the edge of a lake or the ocean, anywhere in the wild. Have a picnic.
Forget those kind of Disneyland vacations. Go somewhere that's going to really heal the family and teach them something.
Have a picnic, and when you have a picnic, for heaven's sakes, leave no footprints. Never leave trash. Remember in the olden days when we were scouts or Girl Guides, it was a big thrill to go to the woods or anywhere in the wild and pretend that no one had ever been there. And after you left, no one could tell that you were there.
Right.
Right? So, and it's a respect thing and it's a compassion thing. And ultimately where I'm leading here is I believe if you wake up in the morning and your feet can touch the ground, you must give thanks for that. Health is everything. If you have your health, you've won the lottery of life. The key now is how to maintain your health. There's just no question, ladies and gentlemen, that plant-based, 100% plant-based diets give us a fighting chance to hold on to our health, because taking our power back means taking our health back. And we have to do it because, as Deborah has said on many occasions, and many of her guests will say, we know that more and more people are getting sick. And we know that the cause of many of the illnesses, many are the diets that we have been consuming for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And it's just a matter of when
Exactly.
the straw, that one proverbial extra straw on the camel, snapped his back. So there's no question. And when you switch to a plant-based diet, and here's the thing, you don't have to. My little brother always says, well, Dr. Reese, you do things, you're an all or nothing person. When you commit, you just go hard.
Yeah, but that's who you are. So you're just being you.
I'm being me, but I'm not suggesting for the audience that tomorrow they decide they're going to go 110%. I wish you would. But
unless you're like us.
It's easy to try to go 3 days a week on plant-based. And then it's easy to add a 4th day and 5. And as you do that, the first thing that I guarantee you will notice, the first thing is you will become more compassionate. Each of us have that compassionate gene, and it's just a matter of switching it on. And I urge you that it's not just for the sake of switching it on, although it is very important. It's your health. And once you're compromised, you're in deep trouble. And an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure.
Yeah. And I have my own theory about that, Reese, because I honestly think that people that eat meat, now, whether they say they eat grass-fed or whatever, at the end, they all go down the same slaughterhouse, and those animals pump out so much adrenaline, and people are eating this adrenaline. So I honestly believe that a lot of the energy in people's body, this craving for violence, these violent acts, this impatience, this lack of compassion really comes because you are what you eat. And when you eat that fear and that adrenaline coming from a poor animal that didn't want to die, then you are what you eat. So I think that more than anything, that is why your compassion gene gets turned on, because you stop putting that into your body. That's not the fuel that our cells are looking for to live. We don't need that. What we need is not only eating for our own health, like we're talking, but just speak just a little bit about how being plant-based makes such a great change. Time to stretch, walk around, and get your drink, but then come back to Dr. Reese and my great conversation, all right? And while you do that, I just want to remind you guys to pass the show on or leave a review. And thanks to all of you who have already done that. But please keep passing the word on because the show's growing fast and it's all thanks to you guys. I so appreciate any way you can support the show. Donations, using the Amazon banner for your purchases, or just passing the link on to someone else or posting it on your social media. Thank you so much, my friends. You guys are the best. And lastly, just another reminder to drink your ionic minerals even if you're not drinking distilled water. The kind of minerals you get in filtered water is the kind you can't absorb. But if you're like me and you drink distilled water, then you want to be sure to get your ionic minerals in your daily routine. My favorite ones are Good State, and you can check them out on my products page from my website. That way you get the best and you can support the show with a little commission. I love their minerals, and I promise you, I wouldn't recommend anything that I don't use myself. They're my number one pick and the ones that I use. All right, I know you can't wait to hear more, so let's go back to the show and finish talking to Dr. Reese. Here we go.
Sir Paul McCartney really did say it the best. If all slaughterhouses had glass walls, people wouldn't be eating it. And the other thing, the important thing, because there's so many great things. And I think the exciting thing to me of being human is the luxury of getting to learn new things every day.
Yes.
It's fun. When you switch to a plant-based diet, you're actually giving our planet a fighting chance to contend with all of these rising heat-trapping, climate-altering greenhouse gases, because modern animal agriculture contributes almost 18% of all of the greenhouse gases that are overheating our planet. And that's more than the entire transportation sector globally. It's compassionate, it's healthy, it's good for our planet.
And it's leaving something for our children.
And we need to embrace, often I'm asked, how can I do this day in, day out, year in, year out, decade in, decade out? What is driving this matrix inside of me other than my unbelievable commitment and love to nature? Is the word love. Love is the highest vibration that a human can reach. And when we become compassionate, when we are plant-based, when we care of our planet, when we care of the water for our children or for our neighbors or for somebody in another country, then we reach the next level. Love is the solution. And we have to understand, I think more than anything, that adding each year at least 100 million people, that our planet and all of our natural resources, our trees, our bluefin tuna, our leatherback turtles, our fresh water, it's finite. And we have to become aware of protecting it for us and for future generations. And one thing that is not on and not acceptable is the continued over $5 trillion a year in subsidies to coal, oil, gas, and fracking. Because here's the thing, despite this blip in DC, because it is a blip, they do not represent the kind and compassionate electorate. They do not represent us. What we have to do is we've got to take care of our planet. And we are all caretakers. We're caretakers of our souls, our bodies, our families, our neighborhoods, our communities. And it's crucial now because our planet and all of nature is under incredible stress. And as I said earlier, we need nature. We need oxygen. We need our forests. We need our oceans. We need our coral reefs. We need our deserts. And it's a rethink moment. And in the history of our species, 7 million years, we've had rethink moments. We've had to face climate change before, and we adapted. That's what we need to be doing now is the adaptation. I'm very excited to also share with the audience that over 1,000 cities in America have joined the Mayor's Climate Action for reducing fossil fuels. There's over 600 colleges and universities in America that have joined the march to use less energy, fossil fuel. They're making many colleges of solar farms. And each of us also can look into our investment portfolios, our retirement plans, and divest of all coal, oil, gas, and fracking holdings. That's what each of us can do. Many pension funds in California have already done that, and around the world. And many colleges and universities around the world have divested. $5 trillion has been taken away from these subsidized polluting industries and placed in many other.
Nowadays, you can find green investors that'll help you invest your money into things that are good for the earth.
Absolutely. I covered a story just the other day, the amount of wind energy that is being generated in Texas and in the Southwest Pool Plan, which includes more than several states, Louisiana and New Mexico, North Dakota, Montana, Texas. They're generating phenomenal amounts of wind energy. Solar energy is on a tear, and the amount of states and towns and cities and homes that are going to solar. And they are not being handed $5 trillion a year to do what they have done. And
beware of any industry that needs to be subsidized
like
forever, $5 trillion.
And I encourage all the listeners to join the marches, join the demonstrations. If you can't physically be at the demonstration, well, you know what you can do? You can post something on your Facebook page, or you can share an action plan with your friends on your email list. This is not a time to be passive, and it's not a time to pretend nothing is happening.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The brazen gall and effrontery of a few filthy politicians and oil businessmen that have smeared the science profession as people that are just trying to stop these oligarchs from making trillions of dollars is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that science has given us our smart technology. Science has given us our hospitals. Science has given us our transportation. Science has given us our homes. Science has given us all of the amenities that 150 years ago did not exist. Scientists, as my colleagues say, are thousandaires. We don't stand en masse as a profession to make trillions of dollars. We actually love our work. Every day we jump out of bed, fire in our belly, because we've got a problem to solve. And scientists are doing our best to make our planet as best as we can a little bit better. So when we sound the alarm with scientific facts that have been checked by many other scientists, not just one scientist having an aha moment running around saying, Eureka. This is vetted, peer-reviewed, which means it goes through a very rigorous process of other scientists checking. We have to take heed of our warnings. The world is changing. It's warming. And there's much that each of us can do, each of our communities can do, each of our states can do. And ultimately, someday, each of our heads of states and our countries can do, because it's a race.
Yeah.
It's a race to save our planet, and it's a race to protect the animals.
And we're way behind in the race, so we all need to do something.
Yeah, and it's doable. I mean, I want people to come away from the interview thinking, Well, there are problems, but there's stuff that each of us can do, and it's doable. And it's doable because you will involve your children or your grandchildren or your nieces and your nephews. And when they see it, they get it. I mean, Deb, there's nothing quite like in late summer walking on your deck and picking your own food, or an apple, or a lemon, or an orange,
or a chard, or a kale, or grow your own sprouts on your windowsill.
It's not expensive.
And there's something about that food that is so different than eating it from even anywhere else. There's some kind of energetic love molecule in that food that's so much more healing than anything else. It's so true.
And it scratches the surface. It scratches the surface because once you start, you become curious. And once you're curious, one thing leads to another, and some will begin to compost. Some will begin to repurpose. This notion of when we get something, it's not good enough to use it and then put it in a bin for somebody else. It's repurposing. We don't need plastic. You can take a mason jar to the store and you can fill it with your bulk goods. Plastic is a byproduct of the petroleum industry. It's subsidized. It's toxic. The plastic in the oceans, there may be as many as 51 trillion pieces. It's killing all sea life. And for those that still, I can't understand why, but for those that still eat anything from the ocean, you're eating plastic and you're eating
Mercury,
a dozen other persistent organic pollutants, from insecticides to PCBs to DDTs to methyl mercury, which is very sticky, and other poisons, and they biomagnify up the food chain. So if you eat a little bit of poison, a human being is an apex predator. It can biomagnify as much as 100,000 times higher in the human body. And when you know that, why would you? Why would anybody knowingly continue to poison not only themselves, but their family? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And as the listeners know, this isn't the world according to Dr. Reese. This is the latest information that is available through every guest that Deborah has had and tens of thousands of experts around the world. Yeah. So it is up to each of us really to take our power back.
And it's a process, It may be something you used to love, or maybe you used to eat a certain way, but you know what? We used to nurse, and when nursing was over from our mama, we had to get over that. So It's just a matter of moving on. There's so many wonderful plant-based foods. There's, as Dr. Clapper said on an episode about milk, what is anybody drinking dairy for? It's just filled with just garbage and toxins and hormones that could grow cancer cells. Why? I mean, the milks out there are so vast. You just need to take the first step, experiment.
Yeah.
It's just go to a great plant-based restaurant. Keep trying. I mean, one day you're going to go like, wow, this is so much more adventurous and so much more delicious, and you won't even look back.
I agree. And the other thing that each of us can do, and I strongly encourage, is to pick a number or pick one animal welfare group and volunteer. Just try it for 1 hour. Volunteer. Pick a little shelter. Pick anything locally, and you will find, first of all, that it'll change your life. You'll also find that there are good people there. Yeah. And you'll also find that there's a community of plant-based people, because when you open up to that, it opens up a whole new avenue of goodness to explore. It's healthy, it's good, it's interesting, it's new, and it's an adventure. We all need to adventure. And
when you work with animals that aren't just dogs and cats, because we're used to those as our pets, but let's say they went to a bird sanctuary or a wild animal sanctuary. When you open up to that, you realize how much those animals are just like our dogs or cats, how much personality, how much they feel, how one can be angry, how another one can be lovable, how they are happy to see you. I mean, there's so many things. So I think that's what opens people up to begin to connect the whole animal world, and not just our dog as our pet and the rest we can eat. Because there's a disconnect there. And if we start working with these farms where these animals get to escape to, they're called animal sanctuaries. We have 2 or 3 in LA. They're just out of the cities, but go spend a day there. You'll get to meet the pigs and the cows, and you'll see what wonderful beings these critters really are.
Absolutely. And for my friends in Australia, where half my heart is all of the time, I'm a deep supporter and I'm very committed to the whales. So I'll plug my Sea Shepherd Australia, seashepherd.org.au, because these wonderful, and they're all volunteers, they're helping to protect our whales. And it opens us up to all kinds of all new possibilities, friends who on Saturday, we clean plastic anywhere in the world, from a beach, from a sidewalk, from a riverbank, from a lake bank, from a little playground, from a forest. If you pick up 3 pieces of plastic and you take a picture, then you can post that picture on Twitter or on Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram with hashtag Saturday Plastic Patrol. It's fun. And
you meet a whole community who's doing the same thing.
And you become a part of this unstoppable force for goodness.
Which is what needs to happen. We need it to become unstoppable. And I do believe that, as you said, if we first start with our own self, many people feel like they give up because they can't change any. Thankfully, our times are producing now these marches. And I think we're coming out of that wave where everybody just sat back and felt like they couldn't participate because their vote didn't matter or their action didn't matter. But now it's changing. So join these groups, or as Reese said, I think find your favorite nonprofit or charity or animal organization and get involved with them and help them. Yeah. And it is life-changing, and it makes you feel good that you're doing something to save the world.
Yeah, and the time is now. The other thing next to your health, the most precious thing that any human being has is today, now. And what you do with your time right now is up to you. And there's only one person who can change the way they're doing it, and that's you.
Yep.
And it's easy.
Yep.
It's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
Exactly. So let's spend the last few minutes talking about my favorite subject, Mercury, because it's really, really, to me, a huge health block. It's caused a lot of people across the globe, millions and millions of people are really suffering mystery illnesses. And I think after your episode, I think I'm going to do one all by myself, just to helping people learn how to get mercury out of their body.
Good.
But let's talk about how this coal industry is contributing to this mercury. Maybe can you give us some numbers so we get kind of an idea of how bad of a problem it really is?
Yeah, in the last 40 plus years, the amount of mercury poison in the oceans has tripled to over 80,000 metric tons. So what we can say is everything in the ocean has got mercury in it. And the way that works is the little fish have it. And when they're consumed by the bigger fish, it biomagnifies into the bigger fish. And when it goes up the food chain to the eagle, which are apex predators, the salmon, and then the tuna, which is an apex predator, or our sharks, which are apex predators, or our wonderful orcas, the largest of the dolphins, that they have a brain 3.5 times the size of a human being. They're very, very, very toxic. And so when a human starts to eat that, your body becomes filled with the mercury, methyl mercury. It's sticky and it stays in the body. It's sticky. It's in us.
And it stays in forever.
And it's a
years.
neurotoxin.
Yeah.
And it is horrid. It's a horrid poisoning that basically eats your insides out, and you finish off, you die a very, very horrid death. And the logical thing is, number one, stop eating it. Number two, as fast as we can, we need to be switching away from these coal-fired power plants. We have a blueprint from Stanford University. The Jacobson Lab has developed not only a blueprint to take America toward an 80% renewable energy by 2030 and then 100% by 2050, but they've also developed that plan for 135 other countries. In other words, this is a very doable process. No brainer. Stop the 5 trillion plus that goes to fossil fuels every year.
Yeah.
No brainer. And then, much like I'm told, I'm far too young to know, but during World War II, when all the industries in America focused on fighting World War II, we will require a World War III effort of all our industries in America and around the globe to attain that 80% renewable green energy by 2030 and then 100% by 2050. And ladies and gentlemen, those are real jobs. There are over 100 million jobs. And I'm going to say this because it irks me to my core. When I hear absolute crap that the XL Keystone Pipeline is going to create 32,000 jobs, Bull Durham it is. More like 35 permanent jobs, and in what, 4 months, 5 months? This is a green revolution for 100 million people for decades. Mm-hmm. Decades. And it is the future. It is the future. And it's an unstoppable force for goodness, and it's well underway. I encourage you to join it. I encourage you to resist, reject, denial.
Yeah. And Reese, when you were talking about the mercury that we're all getting from eating out of the ocean, what about for those of us that don't eat out of the ocean? We're still exposed to a lot of mercury. That's why
it's in the air.
We shouldn't eat out of the ocean, because in addition, we're all being exposed to methyl mercury. Is it methyl mercury?
Methyl mercury.
Yep. Eat from the coal industry that's spewing into the air. It's in our trees when we have fires, vapor. Right?
It's in the subarctic when it's been accumulating in the subarctic for a couple hundred years, because we've been burning coal for a couple hundred years, and most of the mercury vapor rains down onto the North Pole because most of the people live in the Northern Hemisphere, and it sits there, and it has sat there, but we're missing epic amounts of sea ice. All of the creatures in the Arctic are filled with mercury, and fires are now happening in the subarctic, which we haven't had for, say, 10,000 plus, probably 5 to 10,000 years. We haven't seen that burn. And when they burn, they're releasing mercury that sat there for a couple hundred years. It's everywhere. We have to be very, very careful. And Deb, in the next podcast, will get into the details of what each of us can do to begin to detoxify and things that we can eat. I love cilantro and spirulina, and those are just a few of the plant-based antidotes.
But we're at a critical point now, because even as a vegan or plant-based eater, we're just being exposed to so much mercury anymore. Yeah. It's not okay anymore to say, well, I don't eat out of the ocean, but most people do. So in addition to all this,
all of us have mercury in our bodies.
But imagine the people that are then eating fish all the time or stuff from the ocean. Oh my gosh.
I wish they wouldn't. I beg of you on bended knees, please never, ever eat the tunas. The tunas are in such terrible shape. There's approximately 32,000 fish species on planet Earth, and the tunas, the bluefin tuna, is the pinnacle of the 32,000 species, and they've been hunted relentlessly for sashimi. All 3 populations are endangered, critically endangered, and will go extinct quite shortly. all in the name of sashimi, all in the name of one particular Japanese corporation. I'll get in trouble if I mention them. But they're cornering the bluefin tuna market. They're stockpiling football fields in cryovac minus 60 temperatures of these fish that will be gone in the Pacific and the Southern Hemisphere shortly, and they will have 20 or 30 years of bluefin tuna cold stored that they will push into the marketplace and make a fortune. Making a fortune on extinction is absolutely criminal. It's ecocide. It's wrong. And like the people who eat shark fin soup, which is also absolutely horrid. Sharks have been on our planet for over 400 million years, and we've just about wiped 90% of most species off the map in the last 15 years. Those shark fins are laced with methyl mercury. They're poisoning the people who are eating it, as the tuna are filled with methyl mercury. For heaven's sakes, give these animals a chance. Don't eat them ever. Right. And support any group that is on the ocean trying to protect the bluefin tuna and all of the tuna.
And all the ocean creatures.
And all the
Please,
oceans and the whales and the sharks and the extraordinary sea turtles and all of the seabirds. They're under an onslaught, and it's up to each of us to decide that nature is our mother and we protect our mother. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's a great place to end, because as you say, and I always have it in the back of my head, it's our only home.
Yeah. And please protect our planet.
Right.
Yeah.
So please protect our planet. So thanks, Dr. Reese. You're the Vidal Speaks local scientist here.
Thanks, baby.
I love having you on, and I love hearing you. I know every word that you say comes from your soul, and it's filled with a lot of integrity and research.
And love.
And love, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Love is the answer.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us today and educating all of us. And you gave us some really positive things everyone can do. So I think this one will be a good one, because we have to hear the bad news, but more than that, we have to know what each of us can do.
Yeah, we're powerful, and we are an unstoppable force. And the time, as you said, is now.
It's now. So go home and have your first plant-based meal. If you're listening to this in your car, if you've never done it, try it today and get started.
Yes.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
First of all, I'm going to play again one of my favorite lines in this interview. It was this one. Listen.
Often I'm asked, how can I do this day in, day out, year in, year out, decade in, decade out? What is driving this matrix inside of me, other than my unbelievable commitment and love to nature, is the word love. Love is the highest vibration that a human can reach. And when we become compassionate, when we are plant-based, when we care of our planet, when we care of the water for our children or for our neighbors or for somebody in another country, then we reach the next level. Love is the solution.
It's so true, isn't it? Love is the solution, guys. Along with waking up to reality, right? I know there are many people out there trying to tell us the situation is not as dire as it really is, but I can tell you that's not reality. Just like the food industry, we're told lies in order for certain industries to benefit. Thanks to so many scientists with hearts of gold like Dr. Reese, who are working every cell in their body to help save our environment before it's too late. And that means massive amounts of research and endless hours of education of the reality of the situation so that they can get the truth out to the masses. I personally am so grateful to those dedicating their lives to wake us all up. Dr. Reese knows how to make the situation so personal, like when he says, it's our only home and we have to save it. That's so true. And I also love how he gives solutions, because sometimes when the problem is so vast, it's easier to ignore and go on living as if you didn't know it. But once you really understand the critical state that we're in, you can't forget it anymore, and then you won't want to support any action that would contribute to the destruction of our only home or our Mother Earth and all its creatures. Try to always understand the situation, but then let's focus on what we can do to help, instead of feeling like anything you do will make so little difference. That's not true. If we all went plant-based, it would turn around our global warming situation. So if we each do our part, then collectively we can make a difference. Power is in numbers, and the best benefit you get when you go plant-based is your health. In addition to helping the planet, it's a win-win. I hope you guys feel inspired about the positive message today that Dr. Reese gave us on all the things we can do to take a stand and to do what's right. I just love how passionate he is. A few times when I've been around him and people ask him, how can you do such a work? You have to read every day about the destruction to our planet, about how all our animals are toxic, dying, and going extinct. How do you do it? And he always says, I work for the trees and the animals. I speak for them, and that's what keeps me going. And it's so true. So now he's known to me as Relentless Dr. Reese. And thanks, Reese, for all you do. All the trees, all the animals, and on behalf of all my listeners, we thank you too for your work. You're such a good soul, and I'm thankful that nature has you working for them. That helps me sleep better every night. That gives me hope that our children would grow up and have water. They may know what a rhino or even a whale looks like. I know the race is on, but at least with you working for them, we all have a fighting chance. I'm filled with gratitude for all you do, Reese. Thanks. Well, I think that's a good happy note to end on, don't you? I hope you all enjoyed the show today, my Vidal speakers. You must know what time it is. It's that time to say goodbye. Until next week, be sure to eat well and try to do something nice for 3 people, because compassion is contagious. Vidal has spoken. Remember, you heal with a plant-powered diet, homeopathy, and detoxing, of course. Peace. Be healthy. Be free. Live life.